Bus, replacing her brother Jim with Magic Johnson.
This was a very difficult decision. I probably waited too long. For that, I apologize to Laker fans.
I'm not a quick fix. I can't turn it around tomorrow, or I really would be Magic, right?
On talent, he's clearly one of the top 5 running backs. Not invited to the combine, or are they going to draft him, or a team's going to take him off the board?
If I were a free agent, I would seriously consider not going to a team where I might not have lifetime medical for the injuries that I know I'm going to get.
I don't know how many more times I'll be able to stand in front of you San Diego sports people and really just say thanks. It was
Welcome to Outside the Lines. I'm Ryan Smith, sitting in for Bob Lee. Well, that didn't take long. In just 19 days, Irvin Johnson pulled off a coup worthy of his nickname, going from advisor to co-owner Jeannie Buss to president of basketball operations of the Lakers. In is one of the most celebrated players in team history, 5-time world champion, 12-time All-Star. Out is Buss's own brother Jim, who will remain a part owner, and GM Mitch Kupchak and his 4 NBA titles as GM. Now, Jeannie Buss acknowledged this wasn't an easy call, issuing this mea culpa to the Laker faithful.
This was a very difficult decision. It was probably so hard for me to make that I probably waited too long. And for that, I apologize to Laker fans. But now with clarity and direction, and after talking with Irvin, really knowing that a change was needed, and that's why we're here today.
Now, granted, Jim Buss's on-court product likely sealed his fate. And it doesn't help that he said in 2014 that he would step down if things didn't work out in 3 to 4 years. They're far from contending now. This young team vacillates between being pretty bad and downright awful on the court, with the league's 2nd worst record over the last 3 years. And how's their rebuilding going? Well, none of the 4 players picked in the first round of the last 3 drafts even cracked the top 100 in PER this season. You didn't have to be a mind reader to know the Magic Jim Buss Mitch Kupchak union wouldn't work. Just listen to what he said last week.
I'm going to be honest with Jim. I'm going to be honest with Mitch. And I'm hoping that they will embrace that and accept that. And the same thing coming from them to me. I'm going to accept what they say and what they have coming toward my way. But at the same time, something has to change. We look at the record. The record speaks for itself. And so we have to change. We have really good young players. We got to develop these young players that we have. But at the same time, at the top, things have to change. And you have to think differently. You have to look who's doing it well and say, okay, why are they doing it so well, and why are they at the top? We have to copy some of that.
So now that change has come in the form of the team's most electric player, if not presence of all time, can he make the Lakers great again? His 1994 stint as coach wasn't exactly magical, going 5-11. And while Lakers superstars have occupied front offices before, for every Jerry West, there's an Elgin Baylor. But the star is up for the challenge.
For her to say, Irvin, I want to entrust you. I believe in you. I'm going to put this franchise in your hands, right, to make basketball decisions, has been unbelievable. And so I thank you, because this is like, if you could draw up your dream job, right, what would it be? This would be it.
So now we can get to it. We've got a lot to get into. So let's welcome in Ramona Shelburne, senior writer for ESPN.com, and Bill Oram, who's with the Orange County Register. It's like deja vu all over again from last week. Oh, by the way, Bill's column today titled Incredulous, Overconfident, and Tilting at Windmills. How Lakers' Jim Buss did himself in. All right, guys, so Ramona, I want to start with you. How, in your mind, did it become apparent to Jeannie Buss that Jim Buss, Mitch Kupchak needed to be out?
I think that's been apparent for a couple of years now, and the only question was, would there be a turning point where they would, turn this franchise back in a certain direction? Would they do things that had them going, quote unquote, in the right direction, right? Would they make? I think last year's free agency was probably the last straw when they went out and signed Timofey Mozgov and Luol Deng, 2 moves that really weren't in the best interest of the franchise long term. They were more in the best interest of Jim Buss and Mitch Kupchak in trying to help help the Lakers have a team that maybe would make like the 8th seed or the 7th seed. So you could point to a record where you said, okay, they've made the playoffs. But those contracts are going to hamstring them for years to come. And then I think over the course of this season, they start off 10-10, and there was this sense that, well, maybe it's going to work out. Maybe they could make the playoffs. Maybe they're ahead of schedule. But things obviously fell apart from there. Now they only have 19 wins and are heading for a 4th straight lottery. And from what I've understand, this decision to not only to bring in Magic Johnson was just the first step in this, but there was like about a 2-week period, 2.5 week period where she was deciding could they work together, could they stay on for the rest of the year. But from what I'm told, she decided the middle of last week, so about a week ago from today, that this wasn't going to work out. There wasn't going to be a way they could all three work together, and she needed to move forward with firing both of them and with bringing in Rob Pelinka. That process started about a week ago. Instead of going to All-Star Game, she sent her brother Joey and got to work on executing this final plan that you saw yesterday.
And we'll talk about Pelinka in just a second, but Bill, I have to wonder, it seems like in all these discussions that conversation with Magic helped push her over that line. Was this handled properly in your opinion?
It's a great question because it is interesting to look at kind of how this all materialized. Jeannie Buss said yesterday that the whole thing was put in motion when Magic Johnson reached out to console her after her breakup with Phil Jackson, who runs the Knicks. Their engagement was called off back in December. They had dinner in January, and all of a sudden he's making suggestions about the future of the franchise, and suddenly he's now in charge. It certainly is choosing the person closest to you and the person who you trust from your past, as opposed to actually a full-scale search, which I think a lot of people would have liked to have seen the Lakers go through in this process. Look at across the board, who are the brightest basketball minds out there? Who is truly up to the task of rebuilding the Los Angeles Lakers? Like we've pointed out before, Magic Johnson doesn't have experience in that regard and is going to need to surround himself with people who can help him shape a culture and identity and lure free agents. But in terms of being handled properly, I think it all depends on what happens over the next 3, 4, 5 years. What they do in meetings and free agency. Seems it's really hard to say, but it was very abrupt and not especially deliberate. Yeah, it seems in some ways very personal. Now, you talked about rebuilding. Ramona, Magic said it would take 3 to 5 years to rebuild. Talk about the Philadelphia 76ers. That cost Sam Hinkie his job. How patient are Lakers fans going to be with a 3 to 5 year rebuild? Not 3 to 5 years to being a contender, but a rebuild. Yeah. Well, it's because, they've already had to be patient. Like, the Lakers only missed the playoffs twice in Jerry Buss's ownership tenure. And they've missed it 3 years in a row, and they're probably going to miss it again this year. And so they've been waiting for a while. They're not used to this kind of this kind of cycle where you're in the lottery. And like when a couple years ago, I remember the first time it looked like they had a choice of whether they were going to go into the lottery, and then they had to keep their top 5 pick. So this pick has been protected for 3 years in a row, and they're always kind of dodging the lottery ball, the ping pong balls at lottery time. And I remember saying, tanking sort of begets more tanking. Once you're in the lottery, it's really hard to get out of it because young players take some time to develop, and unless you get Karl Towns or Kristaps Porzingis, Joel Embiid, unless you hit on those picks, it takes a while to find that star and to grow that team. And so I think Magic understands how vitally important it is for them to keep that pick this year. Their pick, which is only top 3 protected this year, might be the most valuable asset that they have as a franchise. That's going to be key, and it's not easy to hit on some of these picks. So, Bill, then I have to ask you, Rob Pelinka, rumored to be the new GM, not hired yet. Rob Lowe's doppelganger. Guy looks just like Rob Lowe. Yeah, he does. I can't believe it. How did this all come together, especially when Magic was saying that he wanted to be slow and deliberate, yet you've got a possible GM in your pocket? You've been on the job less than a day? Well, it's interesting, but like Ramona said, this was in the works long before yesterday when reports first came out about Rob Pelinka being in the mix. This is a guy who's been around the Lakers, who everyone within the Lakers organization knows. A couple of years ago, I think he represented as many as 7 Lakers at one time, and the biggest one was Kobe Bryant. So when you know that Magic Johnson said his first call was going to be to Kobe Bryant when he got on the job, well, he didn't have time to do that yesterday, he said. So that call didn't happen yet? Absolutely. Well, as of when I spoke to Magic yesterday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon Pacific time, he said he hadn't had a chance yet. I can't speak to what he did after dinner. But Rob Pelinka just is somebody who was a natural fit in that sense, obviously has the support of Kobe Bryant, who I think you're going to see be more and more influential with the Lakers organization going forward now that that basically his allies are in power, being Jeannie Buss at the top and Magic Johnson right
and
below
Ramona,
her.
I just have a couple seconds.
Really
Bill, sorry to jump in. Ramona, I just have a couple seconds left.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant, if he gets a job, what would that job be? Real quick.
I don't think he gets a job, but I think that he has a lot of influence, not just with Rob Pelinka, but with Magic and with Jeannie Buss. Go on Instagram. There's a picture. Kobe Bryant, Jeannie Buss, Linda Rambis. Was posted about 10 days ago.
Okay, Ramona, Bill, always great to talk to you both. That's hilarious. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Got it.
Well, let's turn to this news. Former WNBA player Candace Wiggins has stirred up controversy over comments she made to the San Diego Union Tribune about the league. Now, Wiggins, who played 8 seasons in the WNBA, said that she was bullied and the culture of the league was very, very harmful. That's a quote, and a major reason why she retired in March. The Stanford grad says she was targeted and treated poorly for being heterosexual and popular. Wiggins also says that she estimates that 98% of the women in the WNBA are gay. ESPN reporter Michelle Vopel talked to several current and former WNBA players who say they've never experienced what Wiggins describes. Now, it should be noted that Wiggins has an upcoming book. Well, when we return, saying
it has been very special to be a San Diego Charger, and I hope that you can always see me as that.
No, can you just tell? The great thing about the NFL is there is no real offseason, especially when it comes to off-the-field drama. Case in point, next Tuesday is the unofficial start that the NFL draft season begins. The NFL Combine kicks off in Indianapolis, a week-long event where 330 players are poked, prodded, and pitted against each other in a fight to rise up draft boards. But just as notable is who won't be there. Ole Miss quarterback Chad Kelly and his wideout DeMaurier Stringfellow and Oklahoma running back Joe Mixon were all denied invitations due to a new league conduct policy barring players from the Combine with criminal cases involving violence or sexual offenses. Now, this isn't the kind of highlight reel NFL executives like to see. Kelly threatening a massacre at a Buffalo area bar, Mixon punching out a college co-ed, Baylor's Ishmael Zamora abusing a dog in a video, all controversies the image-conscious league would rather avoid. So how will the league handle this and other off-season drama? Let's turn to our guest, Andrew Brandt. He is our NFL business analyst, and Jerome Bettis joining us, ESPN NFL analyst and Pro Football Hall of Famer. All right, so Andrew, I want to start with you. You are not only an agent, but you are also an executive. If you're an agent, what do you tell these guys if you're representing them? And if you're an exec, do you stay away from these guys altogether?
Well, I think as an agent, Ryan, you have to say the teams are going to find you. The league can have all the policies it wants. I think it's kind of a Pyrrhic victory for the league, all these domestic violence policies that have come out and trying to show that they're supporting that cause. But teams are going to find them. That's what I tell the players. Teams will come to workouts, pro days, interviews. It just won't happen at the Combine. And from a team side, Ryan, it just depends on the team. But listen, teams will draft these guys. It's the talent versus character equation that we see all the time. We saw it a couple years ago. Frank Clark, a disturbing incident in college. The Seahawks took him with their top pick in the name of talent. Not all teams will have these guys on their draft boards, but it only takes one. And I think the teams will do what they do, league policies or not.
Yeah, and Jerome, Mixon was considered a first-round draft pick potential. Do these guys deserve a second chance?
They deserve a second chance. Under the understanding that they're a different person than they were. If they've, sought out help and they've received that help, I believe then you should give them a second opportunity. This is their livelihood, their opportunity to make a living. So you give them a second chance. And if they don't do well in that second opportunity, then you don't get a third opportunity. Where
then is it fair that they drop down draft boards like Mixon? Possibly?
I think it is fair because it's a valid concern for an organization. You're saying to yourself, do I want this type of notoriety coming to our team? Is that going to upset the locker room? There's a lot of issues that you have to look at. So do I want to now give a high draft pick or give the resources to this player that maybe some other teams won't do? And so that's when he would drop down the draft board.
All right, it's a balancing act. And by the way, speaking of a balancing act, there's been the Chargers move to from San Diego to L.A., You know, a lot of San Diegans still beside themselves over the move. Philip Rivers, by the way, no exception. He returned to the only pro city he's ever played for. Take a look at what he said.
It has been very special to be a San Diego Charger, and I hope that you can always see me as that. I know it'll be different. I know it'll be different, but just know that while I know y'all are understanding and knowing that I will play like crazy and fight like crazy as a Los Angeles Charger, just like I did for you guys, and I know y'all can respect and understand that, but I hope you also know that I will always be playing for San Diego as well.
It's incredibly emotional. It's emotional for a lot of these guys. Jerome, I got to ask you, if the Steelers, while you were with them, moved to Harrisburg, how would you have reacted?
It would have been difficult. And I understand the emotions that he has. I was in a move that went from Los Angeles, the Rams from Los Angeles to St. Louis.
What was that
Although
like?
it wasn't as long. You have to understand, Philip Rivers, he spent upwards of 11 years in San Diego. That's home for him. So, the move is a very, very difficult move because now it's not just you as a football player. Mm-hmm. It's your family. It's everyone. You have to uproot your family and now move to another city that you're not necessarily comfortable with. You don't know where your living arrangement's going to be, where your kids are going to go to schools. You have to start to figure all of these things out. This is not just a football decision, it's a life decision. So, he's emotional. You can understand that because he's going through so much. It's a traumatic time because he's the face of an organization that's moved, and now the city is saying, okay, do we still believe in you, or do we treat you like we're treating the exiting franchise? So it's a tough situation because he's a beloved figure in San Diego.
Well, I'm sure he won some points with that emotion he showed. They're really
absolutely
caring for the fans. Meanwhile, let's turn to this. NFL Players Association gearing up for a battle with the Chicago Bears over Illinois workers' compensation laws. Check this out. Right now, if a pro on a sports team there gets hurt and takes a lower paying job, the law lets them collect nearly 2/3 of the difference of their NFL salary and that new job until they turn 67. Now, a state bill wants to cut that age to 35. You're looking at millions in potential costs for players no longer on the roster for teams. So pro teams in Illinois supported the bill, noting that pros in these leagues only play 3 to 5 years on average. But the union claims it will tell its members not to sign with the Bears if that bill passes. So, Andrew, I have to ask you, what do you think the chances are that this bill passes, and what will be the reaction?
Well, first of all, we have a targeting of athletes. They're being treated differently than normal civilians. The union is fighting this. They're encouraging players not to sign in Chicago. I think, like the NFL we talked about before, theoretically this sounds great, but practically, if you have a player with the most opportunity and most money and best situation in Chicago, I don't think he's going to pass this up. Yes, it's targeting athletes, but the practical aspect is players are going to go where they have the money and the opportunity. If it's the Bears, they'll go there.
All right, Jerome, Andrew, thank you so much for being with us. Well, if you liked Factory of Sadness, that whole viral rant, just wait until you hear how the Browns' one-win season is being celebrated.
Never forget the day the Browns won again.
Tonight, 4 Hall of Fame coaches and their teams in action tonight, starting at the Carrier Dome. Syracuse hosting number 10 Duke, 7 Eastern. Then it's off to Chapel Hill. Number 7 Louisville taking on number 8 North Carolina. It's a great night of college hoops, Sonic blockbusters on ESPN, and also streaming live. And Louisville, after North Carolina, Louisville, don't miss SportsCenter at 9. Bucci and Levy, they'll have everything from a big night in college basketball and the latest trade news on the NBA front.
Tom takes the snap, throws it for Evans, goal line, touchdown Patriots! The quarterback that's been in this situation so many times.
Brady in the gun, shoots it up the field and catch by Malcolm Mitchell.
Kid came to play today.
To White, direct snap, and he scored. James White cuts it up with the right arm, cuts it upfield, driving forward, diving to the goal line! Touchdown! James White has won the Super Bowl.
Fame and success. The perks are great, but how do you put a price tag on it all? Especially when you're faced with this dilemma.
Did someone take my jersey?
The Houston police, who are investigating that missing Tom Brady jersey, calling its theft a felony in the first degree and its value $500,000. Now, meanwhile, Tom Brady has come up with his own suspect board. You see on his Facebook and Instagram accounts, TB12 showed a poster jokingly listing who the suspects might be who took his jersey. Among Brady's suspects are Julian Edelman and Lady Gaga. It's got to be one of those two. I guess Bob Kraft was right about Brady's jersey being like a Picasso. And all of this got us thinking, if a shirt is worth $500,000, surely the guys who actually played in the game must be worth more, right? Especially the one who scored the winning touchdown. Well, James White's salary for this year, $600,000. And all he did was score 3 times in the game. Wide receiver Malcolm Mitchell was one of the heroes in Super Bowl 51 comeback. He earns $50,000 less than what Brady's jersey is worth. Looks like someone's in line for a raise. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, the Cleveland Browns did not make it to the Super Bowl this past season, as you know. In fact, they've never won a Super Bowl, or for that matter, had a winning season since 2007. And that stretch of futility even inspired this viral rant.
Hey Browns, Mike Polk, season ticket holder. Do you understand that it is actually statistically harder for a team to be this consistently bad than it is for them to occasionally accidentally be good?
The probability is staggering.
We don't even expect you to be good, we just want you to be watchable. I know that there are way more important things in life than football, but you are supposed to be our pleasant distraction from those things.
You are a factory of sadness!
I'll see you Sunday.
Well, that's comedian Mike Polk Jr. from a few years back. And when you're a Browns fan, how do you pay tribute to the team you love? Of course, with song.
December 24, 2016, and the Cleveland Browns were 0-14, and it looked like it was all over but the crying. We were on our way to a winless season, still watching the team for some reason. 2 games left, and our hope was slowly dying. Never forget the day the Browns won again.
Well, here's to hoping that ode can turn last year's odious record around next year. And Browns fans, not to worry, Indians opening day is just around the corner. Well, we'll see you again tomorrow at 1 p.m. over on ESPN2 for Outside the Lines. I'm Ryan Smith. Keep it right here on ESPN for NFL Insiders.